Hello and welcome to this week's YouTube video. Every 4 weeks I do a Procreate video where I attempt to transfer my fine art oil painting skills to Procreate. This week I thought I'd show you how I painted this Cocker Spaniel. The brushes I used were the turpentine brush, the wet acrylic and a couple of brushes that I bought, the fine wet liner and the blend stump wax brush. Both of these are in the Pro oil painting set from Tip Top Brushes, but for the majority of the painting I used the Procreate brushes. The most important thing about this painting will be the brushwork. Looking at my reference photo, notice the movement is moving in this direction. Therefore, if I want to capture that movement, I need to do my brushwork in the same direction. Let's have a look at the video and I will speak about what I'm doing as I go along. I've drawn around my reference photo for speed and have it on the top layer in my layers panel. This is an easy way to keep your drawing correct as you go along. It will also allow you to be expressive without the worry of losing your drawing. The painting will be done on predominantly one layer. If we want to mimic oil painting, it's really important to do it this way. The oil brushes work better when they are moving pixels around on the same layer. It's much harder to get the impression of wet paint if you try to do it on multiple layers. I've covered my canvas in a mid-value colour and selected my turpentine brush to about 70 to 80% opacity. I want large strokes because I'm going to try and describe that movement in as few strokes as possible. It took me a few attempts to get it. Notice I lay a stroke and if I don't think it's working, I undo it and have another go. I start to block in with my wet acrylic brush. Notice how I have lost all the movement in my strokes at this stage. I select my turpentine brush and my background colour and just get rid of it in some big strokes and try to re-establish that movement again, which I'd lost. Notice at this stage I have some very obvious blocks of movement which I need to try to preserve as best I can. Therefore, I will need to leave a lot of this area largely untouched and concentrate on working on my central point of focus, which will be the face. I select my wet acrylic brush and block in my really dark shadow areas. I switch back to the turpentine brush and try to describe that ear in as few strokes as I can. Even though I am limiting my strokes, I still need to make sure that I get my value, temperatures and colours correct. You'll find very often when you work in this way, you'll lay a stroke, then when you switch to a wetter brush like the turpentine, it destroys some of what you've done. I am continually laying my strokes, destroying my strokes, then fixing it. Notice how loose I am being with my strokes. That highlight along the nose is done very roughly with the fine wet liner. Look at how rigorous those strokes are on the top of the head. You need to be quick and definite with your hand action, just like this. Notice also that the movement in my strokes are still all going in this direction. When I'm adding detail to the ear using the wet acrylic, notice the contrast it gives my brushwork between something that is a bit more solid and strokes that are looser and more streaky. I never use my acrylic brush on full opacity. I always have it transparent and it will vary between 50 to 80% opacity. I'm always adjusting my brush depending upon what I'm trying to achieve. Where I have shorter fur, which lays closer to the dog's bone, for example across the muzzle and the top parts of the leg, I am more likely to use my wet acrylic. Where I have longer, more expressive fur, I am much more likely to use my turpentine brush. Where I use my turpentine brush, I will try to describe my fur in as few strokes as possible. This will help keep my painting full of movement. Notice that area of fur on the chest. That was pretty much 2 strokes with a very large brush. I start to lay a lot more strokes in the facial area, switching between my 2 Procreate brushes. You need to do a bit, stop, and then see how it looks. It's really important not to overwork the whole area because I will lose the freshness of the painting. I start a new layer and then put the eye in using the fine wet liner. I don't want the brush picking up the pixels from underneath, So that is why I've started a new layer. When I'm happy with how I think the eye looks, I merge the layers together just like this. If I left it on a separate layer for the whole painting, it could end up not looking like it was integrated, especially as I work on the area around it. The colours I have selected fall within my red to orange to yellow colour picker. I am looking at my reference photo and asking myself, is my brown warm? Is it cool? Is it light? Is it dark? Is my colour more saturated or is it more muted? You really need to do a lot of this by eye. Relying on the colour picker to tell you is a bad idea because it doesn't take into account the paint that is being picked up off the canvas that I've already laid. This method doesn't work when you are attempting to do it all in one layer. It will always be out because I'll always need to go lighter or darker, or more saturated or more muted, depending upon what colour it is covering. The best way to lay your brush strokes is to start off darker and with very simple shapes and large strokes. Then as you begin to add the detail to the central point of focus, you can make your strokes smaller, more plentiful, and get lighter with your values. Always start broad and then define. Don't try to start with detail because you won't be able to capture the movement in your painting. Notice as I start to work on the top of the head area and the ear, there are far more brush strokes than the body, which is largely unchanged from those first initial strokes I made. I am switching between my turpentine brush, which I am using at full opacity as I want the paint strokes to be thick and prominent, my wet acrylic, which I am still using at around 70% opacity, and my fine wet liner, which I am using at full opacity. Look at that area on the ear. I am just scribbling strokes rigorously because I am trying to capture an almost swooshing motion of the ear, like the dog has moved its head down and the ear is in motion too. Like before, I am laying the strokes, destroying, then fixing. How much detail you put in is a bit of a balancing act. As a general rule, if you add detail to an area and it detracts from your central point of focus, remove it. You can see in this area of the chest, I attempt the light areas of fur, which you can see in the reference photo. Notice how this begins to detract from my face, so I remove it. For the light leg hair, I switch to my blend stump wax brush and lay a few bold strokes to suggest that fur. My dog is a little bit too close to the background value and temperature, so I adjust this by adding some lighter, cooler strokes with my blend stump wax brush. I do this on a new layer so that it gives me the ability to rub out areas along the back. And here it is, the finished painting, which can be purchased from my website. I hope you have enjoyed today's video and found it useful. Please like and subscribe if you can, and check out my website sarahhallidayart.com, where you will find examples of my work and also details of online classes that I run. Thank you for watching and see you for the next one.